Welcome to the model room. I've been working on this Roadster, among other things, and there have been some advances, a couple of setbacks, but I thought it's time to do a quick update, let you know what's going on. As you can see, I've got those wonderful Z-Man wheels attached. I love his products. I think they look terrific. They're just the right size, and it came out very well. I like that you can see those slotted disc brakes through the spokes of the wheels, so it looks good. You may remember from a prior video I said that I wanted to widen the track, and I did that. I used aluminum tubing. Well, it was too wide, and I decided, I'm going to go back to the original specifications. So I decided I would just cut that tubing off, and of course I broke the axle when I did it. Luckily I had a spare axle, and I put it on, kind of reattached all of the suspension parts, and it came out well. It looks fine. Just a little setback, wasn't too bad. The suspension is for the most part in. Just one thing about it, the front suspension is a little fiddly. The attachment points to the shocks are very fine. I had one shock that just kept popping off, 3-4 times, no matter what glue I used or whatever. And so today, when I set this down on the mat to do the video, it popped off again. I thought I had it on there, but I'm not going to take the time to fix it now because I want to shoot the video. I've got to edit it, and I want to drop it tonight. But rest assured, that will get fixed. I'm going to pin it, I think. So that will all go in together, and I think that it will look fine. I still have to do some tips on the end of the exhaust. I'll get to that a little later. The body is coming along. I have sanded and primed several times, and it's getting there. It looks fairly good. There's a couple things. I still have to do some work around these wheel wells. You can see I put the inner wheel wells in. I've got to contour them on the bottom. I'll get to that, and then just finish smoothing that out, and then I'll probably hit it with a final coat of primer. It'll be ready for color coat. So I'm happy with the way this is coming along. Here's another thing. I've got this resin part from Model Car Garage. It's a sectioned radiator grill shell. And so I had to section the radiator. This is a kit part that went inside. It's just about there. It still needs a little shaving and sanding, but it's going to go in okay. And when it gets done, I think it's going to look fine. This grill shell will be body color. Of course, this flash comes out in the middle, and a photo etch piece goes in there. I think it's going to look terrific. Here is the interior. I've shown this before. I had sectioned it so it would fit the body. I put some half round on it. I thought I'd dress it up a little bit. And frankly, I don't like it. I don't know if it's because it doesn't look like it's in scale really or what, but to be honest with you, I don't want to use it. I have another interior. I'm going to section that real quick, glue it together, and that'll be ready for paint and seats. So I'm going to get to that soon. Here's the engine, and the engine's looking pretty good. I've got that aftermarket distributor in, and the plug wires, like the way they went in, I pushed the plug wires down a little bit so they would look like they have weight the way a plug wire would on a 1.1 engine. And I like the color. I did do a little detail painting on the engine and the chassis, put a little blue in there, so it complements that pretty nicely. I'm happy with it. On the front, these are the kit pulleys. I just cut them off the fan belt and stuck them in there. I used a little bit of Model Master Silver to touch them up. The generator is put in with a pin on the bottom, and it's holding tight. It's real good. You're not really going to see it when you're looking at this model from above, but I did put a piece of styrene in on top of it to make it look like a bracket that is holding it out from the engine, so it looks authentic. On the fan belt, this is the elastic band, the orthodontic band that I showed in a prior video. Just the right size, went on very nicely. I think it looks good. And quite frankly, it doesn't even need glue. It just snugs on there real nice and looks good on a scale engine. I like that. Now, on top, I've got the dual carb intake, and this is the Hemi engine from the kit. What I decided to do, though, was to use the carburetors from the alternative engine, which is a Ford engine from this kit. That's a single carb intake. I've got two kits. I got out two carbs, lined them up, longitudinally like this, because that is an appropriate configuration for a street rod. These are actually two-piece carbs. Each one is two pieces. So they've got some linkage, some detail on them. I think they're a little better than the carbs that are supposed to go on this manifold, because they are a little bigger, and I think that I can work with them better, and they've got a little more detail. The thing about it is, when I lined them up on the manifold, because they're not meant for this and they're bigger, they didn't exactly line up. So I took a cue from a video on Lucas C's channel, and I'll link it below. He did this and shaved the end parts where they meet in the middle. You really can't tell, but when you do that, then they line up correctly and they look fine. I did strip them because I had painted them gold, and that gold was coming off as I worked with them because it was on over the chrome plating. So I stripped everything off. Now I can work with this. I can drill out for linkage and fuel lines and then paint it up before I install it in the engine. As far as the linkage goes, I thought that I would make linkage just out of styrene, just make a bell crank or something. You can see this is 0.010 styrene. It's very thin. I just, did a mock-up, punched some holes in it to see how it would look. And it looks all right, but the problem with it is that it is very flexible, very, very soft and thin. So because of that, I didn't think it would work well. If I hooked up something like a piece of music wire or something to it, I think it would twist it or warp it, even a spring that would attach then to the engine. So I didn't want to go with that. I decided to try something else, and I got some 0.020 styrene. And of course, this is better. It's much stiffer and it won't warp out. But now I decided this one is too thick. That doesn't look in scale. I don't want to use that. So I went over to the old standby here. This is the Detail Master photo etch fret from their carb linkage set. And I really like this thing. I got a couple of these, but there's every kind of linkage on here that you can imagine. And it is very fine. It's stainless steel, so it's really not going to warp out or anything. The only problem with this is they are so small, and the holes in them are so small that if you tried to hook in a piece of music wire or something to make a linkage rod or a linkage arm, it wouldn't fit. You'd have to use something very substantial. I tried a piece of 0.010 music wire, and while it did go through, it's just too flexible. It won't make a nice stiff linkage arm, and it wouldn't quite look right. Also, it was so thin it would get lost on the top of that engine. You'd barely be able to see it. So I thought, all right, I'm not going to use that. I will just go with the the linkage that's on here. I'll drill it out and I'll put some music wire on it. And I got this wire. Well, that's not it. Where did the wire go? Here it is. I got this, and this is 0.015 music wire. It's half again as thick as the one I was talking about just now, but it will go on here. You'll be able to see it. I'll be able to bend it and stick it in there so that it looks authentic and proper, and it's going to stay nice and straight. The other thing that I'm going to use for this, I did cut up some very, very thin aluminum tubing, and I'm going to make fittings for the fuel lines and the linkage out of this. So it's cut pretty small, pretty thin. I think that'll work well. I think that's about it now for this build. It's going to move on, I hope, quickly from now on. One other thing, some housekeeping that I want to talk about. NNL East is coming up. It's April 26th. If you go to the website, nnleast.com, you're going to find all the information that you need. The web theme is on there now, so you can check for that. Hotel information is there. Information about the Friday night get-together is there. Just looking forward to seeing all my friends. If you've never been, you ought to think about it, because it's a great time for car modelers. The vendor packs are going to go out later this month. So at some point after that, there will be a list of the vendors. There's a couple new ones this year. They're going to be terrific. But you can try going to nnleast.com to check everything out. That'll give you all of the information. Okay, that's about it. Thank you so much. I appreciate your viewing, and I appreciate all my subscribers. Give that a thought. And if you like this video, hit like. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time.